Alrighty, so the last thing I showed you here was how to make the mount. I've made the mount, I've glued it in, but I'm giving it a test and I'm not too happy with that because there's such a force with these motors. It really does drive up into the engine mount. It needs to be really strong. See how there's movement in there? That's not much good. So what I'll do later on is I'm going to pull that motor out, or the engine mount out, and I'll use a glue called 5-minute araldite to hold that in there. I think that's what we should all do. Make it a little bit more secure. Anyway, next step I'm going to show you is how to make the fins, how to make the rocket fins. I'll just bring this back for a minute because when you make your fins, you don't want to go up too high with them. So you don't want your fins to start right up here somewhere, because later on you're going to need to balance the rocket, and you do that by tying a string around the rocket and circling it around overhead in a swinging fashion. I'll show you how to do that later. But if you make your fins go up too high, it means that you won't be able to secure your string around here properly. So my recommendation is that you keep your fins down around here somewhere, probably, and I'll measure that. It's around about 8 centimetres. I figured would be a pretty good measure for a 30 centimetre rocket. So what I've done here is I've made a couple of fins. You can see I've drawn them out, and I'm just about to cut them out in a safe fashion. Now you can see I've got a cutting board there, and I've got my card, and the card that I've chosen to use, it's fairly thick card, probably about a millimetre in thickness. And when I'm cutting with a Stanley trimmer, I need to use a metal knife, cutting over a cutting board, and with a nice sharp blade. Be very careful because you can really damage yourself with this. You always cut standing up as well, never cut sitting down, so make sure you stand. There's one. And you also notice how when I've marked these out, I've tried to do it so I don't waste space on the card. You know, I mean, I could have drawn them randomly around the card, I guess, but I've tried to keep them in one place here because I'm conscious that someone else will want to use this card and maybe cut some fins or do something else with it, so I don't want to waste it. Okay, I'll give them one more cut because you really want them to come out nice and you know, without too many ragged edges. That's why I'm not cutting it with scissors. I probably could cut through this card with scissors, but it wouldn't be a nice sharp edge, which I'm going to get from doing this. Here we go. I'll just give them a little test to make sure that they're all the same size, which they are. That's good. I'm going to put the cutting board away. Okay, now to work out where these little fins are going to sit. And what you'll need is a strip of paper. I'm just quickly cutting myself one here. A little strip of paper like this, your rocket, and you'll need to wrap this little slip of paper around here. Mark where it joins up, and cut it. Now you're probably thinking, how many fins should you put on your rocket? 2, 3 or 4? My recommendation, I've always found 3 seems to work best. 4's too many and 2's not enough. So 3, although it's an odd number, is quite a good number in this instance. Now that is the circumference of this circle. Okay, if I could flatten it out, which I've done so here, that's how much space I have to cover with my fins. So I need to divide that into 3 equal segments. Now you could do it if you're really clever with folding. You can almost work it out, but that's pretty close. That's the way that's how I would do it. But the other way to do it, for some of you who are a bit newer to it all, is to use a ruler and do a bit of maths. So this one here happens to be almost exactly 12 centimetres long, which would mean that every 4 centimetres I should put a mark. At 4 and at 8. Okay. Now, I'll go back to my rocket. And I'm just going to sticky tape that in place so it can't go any for the time being, just a little bit of sticky tape. And you'll see what I'm doing in a minute and you'll, I'm sure, cotton on to what's happening. Okay, I've got that one mark there. Using this nice shaped metal ruler, I can lay it on here. Make sure it's laying flat against the entire rocket, and I can rule a line that lines up with that. Okay, that's going to be my mark that shows me where I glue my fin. Turn it around a bit more because my other mark is there, just here. Rule a line, and I didn't have a mark for the other one, did I? But it's where the paper joins, which is here. Okay, I don't need that slip of paper anymore, so I can pull that off. And I've still got my rough guides. They don't go all the way down here, but they're rough guides that will show me where to glue my fins. Now, when I glue my fins on, I need to be really conscious that I'm not gluing them on like this. Okay, because some people will just glue them on, and have a look at the bottom of that, and I think you'll see why that's no good. Because we really want it to be standing up so that it's perpendicular to that circle, right? Not sort of over on an angle like this. Believe me, a lot of you people will end up doing it. But when you glue them on, you must be looking at the bottom of the rocket like you are now from your angle to make sure that that fin is standing up. The other thing, of course, that you want to make sure is that it is also on the line, okay, and not sort of skewed like so. So you need to do those two things every time you glue one on. So let's have a go at one. The old glue gun out. Oh, better reload that. Running a little bit low.